Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Jordan Janowitz. Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure, man. So super excited to chop it up. I know you're just a couple days out from Nationals, so we're gonna just kind of get after it, not waste a lot of time. The first question that I have for you, Jordan, is who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Favorite bodybuilders of all time. It'd be the two guys down in Texas, Ronnie Coleman and Branch Warren.
All right, perfect. I love it, man. So the second question I kind of like to ask all my guests is, at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I had like a goof off weight training class my senior year. So I wouldn't exactly say that counted as lifting weights because I just did arms and chest, just kind of a class to get an A in, when I was 18. So I would say 20 is when I got my first gym membership at the local powerhouse.
Awesome. So I kind of like to use that question to transition into my guest's backstory a little bit, Jordan. So if you don't mind sharing with myself and the listeners, where did you grow up? Talk about your childhood, your younger years a little bit, up to about high school, and then we'll go from there.
I grew up in Westland, Michigan. It's about 15-20 minutes from Detroit. I grew up loving basketball. That was my first love. Loved basketball since Space Jam came out in like 1996. Yeah, I watched it like every other day. And afterwards I'd go out in the driveway and play basketball. Huge Michael Jordan fan. I collected basketball cards. I have tons and tons of basketball cards. The NBA has changed a lot, I think, and I have a hard time watching it now. There's just like no rivalries, and just seems like there's no big superstars or big centers like there used to be. So college basketball is cool, but I just have a hard time watching the NBA now. It's changed so much. In middle school, I got into track. So I was a long distance track runner. And high school, track as well, along with cross country, and basketball. So I played 3 sports year round in high school.
Very cool. So talk to me a little bit about your parents' influence. What did they kind of pass on to you or instill in you when you were younger?
Well, I didn't meet my dad till I was 11. So it was just me and my mom. She raised me all on her own. So she had really good work ethic. She did a great job raising me. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to say.
That's cool. Are you cool talking about meeting your dad in that situation, or would you rather not talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. He's a great dad. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that a little bit, meeting him at 11 and how did that relationship kind of unfold after that?
Yeah, met him at 11, and the relationship turned out to be really good. He's a great dad. He's a great grandfather, because I have 2 little ones of my own, and then 2 older ones that my wife had. So we have 4 kids together. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So go ahead.
What's that?
Oh no, I said just go ahead. I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, no.
Okay, cool. So when you were wrapping up high school, then what did you kind of want to do? When you quote unquote grew up, and then once you graduated high school, what did that look like? Did you go to college? Did you pursue what you want to do when you're younger? Or did life take you in a different direction?
At first I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I realized there's a lot of schooling involved with that. A lot of science classes and math classes with that. So I did not pursue that. I went to Eastern Michigan University, and I got a bachelor degree in criminology. And I'm currently a corrections officer for a state prison.
Very cool. So you said, Jordan, that at age 20, you really, you joined a gym, you started lifting weights kind of more seriously. why don't you talk about that then for a little bit, please?
The joining the gym.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was always really skinny, so I wanted to put on some muscle. And it took some time for sure. You know, you have to be patient. It always takes time. And after I started seeing results, you know, family members and friends or whatnot say, looks like you're putting on some size, you're, you know, getting bigger. And that was huge motivation for me. So I just kept with it. And, you know, my bench press and squat and deadlift would slowly go up. And before you know it, it's at a number that I didn't think that I could do, you know, a year prior. So that was a huge motivation right there. And first time watching a video of Ronnie Coleman, I was like, man, I want to be like that. I mean, he's the greatest bodybuilder of all time. I'm not going to be like Ronnie Coleman, but that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just the way he lifts heavy compounds, old school movements. That's the kind of way that I like to lift, and like Branch Warren too.
For sure. So when you started lifting weights then, Jordan, did you kind of just like look at the magazines and watch like videos, or did you have like a mentor? Did you hire a trainer? What did that kind of look like in the beginning stages of lifting weights for you?
Yeah, I had a subscription with Flex magazine. I'd read those monthly, watch IFBB pros on YouTube. And when I went to Eastern Michigan University, I met a guy named Carl Jackson. He competed in the late 90s, and he was my mentor, really. He's my first coach that got me into lifting and competing. So he did my first show with him in 2012. And 2 years later, in 2014, I took second place at the North Americans as a light heavyweight. My first pro qualifying show. I lost to Tristan Escalastico. So, and it was a decision that a lot of people said could have went either way. So they had to pick either him or me.
So, okay. So that's super legit. Right. And I think that's pretty awesome, because most people don't have that type of success that fast, you know,
Yeah, it
especially
happened
on
pretty fast.
yeah, especially on the national stage. So let's go. I want to take a step back, because that's what I really like to do. I kind of like to get the backstory of you know, the athlete or the individual that's on the podcast. So you start lifting at 20, joining the gym. You had the Flex magazines. Then you got connected with Carl Jackson. So talk about Carl. You said he competed back in the 90s. Talk about maybe what he helped you realize in terms of bodybuilding, and how he kind of advanced your progress in terms of being a bodybuilder and being an athlete.
Yeah, his mentor was John Simmons. I don't know if you've heard of John Simmons. Okay, he's an IFBB Pro bodybuilder. He has his own local show, and he actually coaches Andrea Shaw that won the women's Miss Olympia. Have you heard of Andrea Shaw?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, he coaches her. He was Carl's mentor, so he learned a lot of stuff from John Simmons. Yeah, he just taught me really, I mean, how to lift. I mean, I knew how to lift, but he taught me more of like a bodybuilding style type of lifting, higher volume. Because I used to just kind of just always go heavy, you know, and he taught me more higher volume, more how to target the muscle, the mind muscle connection with the muscle.
So when Carl kind of started working with you and helping you, did he kind of have like you know, that understanding, and did he kind of let you know right away, like, hey, you've really got some potential in bodybuilding? Or was he really old school and just kind of like kept pushing you and didn't say a whole lot about that?
I would say the second one, just kind of kept pushing me, didn't say a whole lot. But when I first asked him, you know, hey, I heard you've competed in bodybuilding. Do you think you could get me ready for a bodybuilding show? It's something I'd love to do and try. He said, as long as you know, work hard at it, you know, and like, I'll go ahead and help you out with it. You know, I lifted with him a lot as well. He's like, you know, as long as you show up at the times that I lift, and follow the diet and everything and don't complain.
That
And
definitely
I did not complain at all. So, and I think a lot of my discipline with bodybuilding, it carried over from cross country, because running long distances is not easy to do. You want to stop sometimes, but you have to keep going. I've ran a marathon. I ran 2 half marathons.
That's pretty legit, man, for somebody that's a high level, soon to be IFBB Pro bodybuilder. So let's talk about your first show, 2012. Why don't you just talk about that experience? Like, what were your feelings? What were your emotions? How did you place? Were you like instantly sold, like, hey, I'm going to do another show? Or, were you a little turned off by it? Just talk about your overall experience with that first show back in 2012, Jordan.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It was the Flint Natural, Michigan. It was a light heavyweight. I took 4th out of 12 or 13. I was not very conditioned at all. I should have been a middleweight, but it was my first show. Awesome experience. And as soon as I stepped off stage, I was like, I'm ready to do another show and come in better shape. And then I did the Mr. Michigan 3 weeks later, and I was a middleweight. My conditioning was better. I took 7th out of 13. But the Michigan is not a natural show, and I was natural. So that's still was pretty good. And then I did another show later on that year. It was like 2 months later. So I continued to diet. And I got down to 168, and my conditioning was really, really good. And it earned me the natural Mr. Michigan. So I took the overall at that show. So my conditioning improved that first year of competing all 3 shows. So
very cool. And did Carl coach you through that entire first year of competing?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, cool. So
trying
then,
to learn my body,
right. So when did you decide you were going to transition into the NPC, and talk about that transition, please?
Well, I mean, I was NPC. I've always done NPC.
Okay. So just talk about what you did in 2013 then for competing.
2013, I did the Mr. Michigan as a light heavyweight, and I won my weight class. Lost the overall, and that qualified me for Junior Nationals, my first national level show, 2013 in Chicago, and I took 2nd place there.
That's
light heavy.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you gotta explain this to me, Jordan, because like, again, like when we get to 2014, you get 2nd place, at that first huge national show. And then you just said in 2013, you got 2nd at Junior Nats, right?
Yeah. I was like, I did not know what to expect. Like, I'm like, this is a huge show. Like I went with a friend in 2012, like to watch. So like, I want to see what it's all about. Chicago's not very far from Detroit. So we drove, and I watched the prejudging, and I was like, whoa, like I can't be on stage with these guys. These guys are monsters. And this is Junior Nationals, not even the Nationals, and here I am doing the Nationals. So I was very intimidated. So, and then the following year I went, and we took 2nd as a light heavy. So I did not know what to expect, and then I did very good.
So talk about your mindset then, Jordan, in regards to placing that high. Like you go, you're like, dude, there's no way I can compete with these guys. In 2013, you get 2nd in Junior Nats, and then you're getting 2nd at North American. So when you start getting that high of placings, where's your mind at? Like, are you immediately like, hey, like, I'm going to be a pro very soon? And then is that really the shift of your mindset in terms of becoming a pro athlete? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. After 2014, when I took 2nd, I was like, I got very confident. I was like, I can do this. I can be an IFBB Pro bodybuilder. Yeah.
So then, did you talk to me about coaching then. Did you continue to work with Carl? Did you go in a different direction? Let's talk about that a little bit, because I know coaching, there's so many coaches out there now, quote unquote, right? And especially because of Instagram. And I love you high level athletes talking about the coaching process, because so many people don't really know where to start. So talk to me about your coaching process, and even maybe right now, who is your coach, and how did you get to that point, if you're okay with that?
Yeah, I worked with Carl and for 2 more years. I worked with him in 2015 and 2016. 2015, I did the North Americans again, and I took 3rd as a light heavyweight. And then 2016, I decided to do the USAs, and I took 4th. And then I had my one bad national level showing, the North Americans that year. I took 15th. I was off. And that's when I decided it was time for a different coach. So, and I decided to sign with Matt Porter. And I worked with him, Matt Porter, in 17 and 18. And then, as everybody knows, he passed away. And this year and last year, I've been working with Andrew Vu.
How did you decide that you were going to work with Andrew, and how has that experience been in terms of what has he kind of brought to the table for you? Just kind of like asking you about Carl, how has Andrew kind of taken you to that next level in terms of an athlete and a bodybuilder?
Yeah, Andrew's great. Definitely the best coach I've ever had. He feeds me really well. Like, I feel like in the past I would kind of look a little flat on stage. Like, I wouldn't fill out that great. And I don't know, Vu, it's like the perfect combination. Like, the fill out just perfect, and I'm conditioned and crispy, and I'm not flat. Like, he's just really, really good at peaking guys the day of the show.
And so then also, Jordan, in terms of your training style, has that evolved over the years, or is it still kind of like that higher volume that Carl introduced you to all those years ago?
I mean, it's always like mixed up. I usually always do one heavy compound movement for the day, and then everything else is more higher volume. So like the heavy compound will be like 6 to 8 reps, whether it's bench squat or deadlift or shoulder press. And then everything else after that is like 12 reps or more.
Very cool. So I want to talk about, so you talked about 2013 Junior Nationals, 2014, 2015, 2016. Did you take some time off then after 2016? Talk about that little gap up to your last competition then.
16 North Americans would have been September. So I ended up doing nationals in 2017, which would have been November. So a little over a year in between. And I transitioned. This was the first time I transitioned from going a light heavyweight to a heavyweight. So 17 was the first time I competed as a heavyweight. And I competed at nationals. I took 7th.
And then just keep unpacking your contest history then up to where we're at 2 days out from nationals this year.
Yep, absolutely. 17. So then in 18, since I took 7th at nationals, that you have to place top 5 at a national level show to stay qualified to do another national level show the following year. So since I was just out of the top 5, I had to do another local show in 18 to qualify again. So I did the Linda Murray Classic. I won the overall there and went on to do the North Americans, and I took 6th. This is 2018. With Matt Porter, I looked good, conditioned, peeled, and Porter wanted me to do the Amateur Olympia, which was 2 weeks later. Financially, I couldn't do it. But he's like, you're 2 weeks, the show's in 2 weeks. Like, you're in great shape. We're going to have you do it. And he lives in Vegas. So he said, I'll tell you what, you can stay at my house and I'll drive you around wherever you need to go. So he helped out big time. So we did the amateur Olympia in 18 and I took third. So I was, again, very close to turning pro. And then 2019, I took off because me and my wife had a baby. And 2020, when I started working with Andrew Vu. So last year, and I took second place at the North Americans. And then here we are in 2021, getting ready for nationals 2 days out.
So talk to me then, Jordan, a little bit about, I mean, going all the way back to 2014, you get second at North Americans. And then, you know, we already talked about and already discussed, like, hey, at that point, you're like, you know what, like I can be a pro. Your mindset kind of shifted, but you're not a pro yet. So talk about the mindset or the process that you've had to work through to continue to grind and not quit and continue to pursue becoming that pro, because, you know, you had some very quick success and then you've had to go through this process of maybe learning your body and going through a couple different coaches. So how have you been able to handle that and kind of stick to it?
To stick to competing?
Yeah, continuing to compete. You had that early success and it didn't come maybe as quite as quickly as you thought it was going to be immediately after that quick success, and you've had to kind of continue to grind. So how have you been able to stick with it and not just say, you know what, I'm going to pursue something else?
Just discipline and motivation, and really wanting to be a pro bodybuilder, something I've wanted to do since I was 21, 22 years old. I just, you know, I don't want to just stop and give up at it. I've been
For sure.
training so hard for so many years. And I feel like, I don't know, like if I get my pro card in a couple days, it's going to be a lot, I don't know, it's going to feel better, like a more sweeter than had I got it in 2014 with just 2 years of competing. Cause just, you know, almost a decade of competing and I finally get it, you know, it's going to feel that much better versus had I got it 7 years ago.
Absolutely. So what have you learned then, just, you know, about bodybuilding, about yourself over the last almost decade of bodybuilding and competing? Is there something like you feel like maybe you learned over the last several years that if you would have turned pro right away, that maybe you wouldn't have had that opportunity to learn that? Is there any life lessons or something about yourself that you've learned over the last few years in regards to bodybuilding or competing?
Not necessarily.
No, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool, man. So talk to me a little bit about this prep then, Jordan. How has it gone overall? And just talk a little bit about maybe, you know, the food that you've been eating and just the process of this prep leading up to nationals.
Yeah. I mean, obviously to get in great condition, you have to suffer a bit, but I would say that this prep has probably been the easiest prep that I've ever done. He's Andrew Vu, he's fed me a lot of food. Like 6 weeks out, we were still doing 7 cups of rice a day. Like I was having a hard time getting the food down still. And I remember in previous years, like 7 weeks out, I'd be like suffering. So yeah, I'd be in like great condition at 7 weeks out, but then I'd have to like hold that conditioning all the way to the show. While Vu is slowly bringing me in to look my best, to peak perfect the day of the show. And I didn't really start feeling like I was on a diet till I was like 4 weeks out. And I would say like a week and a half to 3 weeks out, that's when I was really starting to suffer for a good week and a half there. And then around a week and a half, like my glutes came in, they're in. And he's been slowly adding more food. So that's been great. Like the last 5 or 6 days, like I've had a muffin before my workout. It's been pretty good. And I'm having 3.5 cups of rice a day. So, I mean, the carbs are pretty good right now. And the fats are fairly high. So and I'm in great shape. It's the best I've ever looked.
Love it, man. I love it. So when you are in prep and you're getting you know, ready to compete on the national stage, are you somebody that kind of just has the blinders on and you just focus on Jordan, or do you get on social media and do you kind of look around and see what some of the other guys are doing? What's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, I just try to beat myself, my previous look. I mean, I have Instagram, most people do. And when you scroll through, you can't help but to not, see pictures of people. I mean, unless you just don't go on Instagram at all. It's not like I'm trying to look for people and type their names or whatnot, but you happen to see pictures like Bodybuilders Without Borders, Instagram, and Suluis. They post pictures of everybody in every weight class. So you happen to see that stuff, and you look at it and you're just like, oh, he looks good or he doesn't look good. So, but I just try to be my best.
100%, man. So I want to take a step back into your profession, because you said you're a correctional officer, correct?
Yeah.
So what's that been like? I'm sure it's can be a pretty intense job, but how has it been for you, Jordan, being a bodybuilder and then having a full-time job, and then obviously you're a dad, you're a family man as well. What is that like for you? How do you kind of balance all of those things?
Yeah, with the job, I'd say it's pretty bodybuilder friendly. Like, I'm able to get my meals in, no problem. Usually it's pretty laid back. But usually I'd say, I mean, right now, like the fall and winter, it's pretty laid back. But like when the nice weather starts coming, the spring, like April, May, like fights start breaking out like crazy. It gets a little ridiculous. Like this last April, I swear we had a fight like every other day in the unit I was working in. It was ridiculous. I'm glad I wasn't in contest prep. I'll say that.
For sure. So talk to me about being a dad and having 4 kids. What is, obviously that's a life-changing thing, but what does being a dad and fatherhood mean to you?
Yeah, I love being a dad. It's amazing when you get to hold the baby for the first time. That's like the best feeling in the world. Um, and with the bodybuilding and being a dad, it can be hard at times, but I have an amazing wife that supports me and she helps so much. Like, I would not be able to do this without her. That's for sure.
Very cool, man. What's something that being a dad has kind of taught you in terms of life or yourself?
I can't really think of anything.
No, that's okay, man. I know you're
Well,
you're 2 days out from competing.
depleted.
You're not thinking about that deep stuff
Sorry.
right now, right? It's all good, Jordan. It's all good, my man. So let's talk about what you are planning on doing. So obviously you want to win on Saturday and become an IFBB Pro. Are you going to, have you thought of anything past that, or are you just focused on this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to win my weight class. If that doesn't happen, I mean, second place also gets a pro card. And I've thought about competing as a pro. Like, do I want to be open or do I want to be 212? Because I'm like 220, 221. So I feel like I would probably do the 212 class as a pro bodybuilder. I would say not that it's exactly healthy, but it would be healthier than to get up to 280 pounds, for my body, for my heart, it'd be better to compete as a 212 bodybuilder.
Right. So do you think you would probably try to jump into a show sometime next year? Or you're probably going to take 2022 completely off if you do earn your IFBB Pro card?
It's something me and Andrew Vu would talk about. I know there's the Indianapolis Pro. I think that's usually in like May. And that's not very far from Michigan. So that's a possibility.
Awesome. So this is kind of a fun question I've got for you. I saw this on your Instagram, but I actually used to live out in Detroit. for almost a year. And I actually trained at the original Powerhouse gym.
Yeah.
I saw on your Instagram that you got banned from the original Powerhouse. Can you share that story, man?
Yeah, I was deadlifting there, and shoulder shrugging. It was a back and shoulder day, and I was being too loud. And the guy told me to be quiet, and I said, okay, sure. And I can, continue to be loud with deadlifting, and he did not like that at all. I'm like, this is a gym in the middle of the hood. Like, there's probably guys in here with packing guns on them. And I can't, I'm not being obnoxious about it, but I'm deadlifting. Like, it's gonna slam against the ground. It's gonna make noise. So, and then I can go to an LA Fitness that's a fancy club and nobody says a word to me. And whatever.
So do they do they just like ask you to leave and not come back then, or what? Or did you kind of just leave on your own?
They said, you got to get out of here. We'll call the cops. You gotta call the cops.
Oh my goodness, dude. That's in Highland Park, dude. It's the absolute ghetto. Cause like
I lived on the west side of Detroit. And then I worked at the downtown YMCA, which I'm pretty sure you probably know where that's at, right? In Detroit?
Yeah. Downtown YMCA in Detroit.
No.
Okay. Well, anyways, it's downtown, but I would catch a bus out to Highland Park and I would train at the original Powerhouse. And it's complete ghetto, it's complete hood. And then at some point, somebody gave me a bicycle. I rode my bike there. I left it, which I shouldn't have done, but I'm originally from a small town in Iowa and grew up in the Midwest. Like, just, we leave our doors unlocked for our vehicles and homes. Well, I left the bicycle chained up to a chain link fence, overnight or over a two-day period. And I came back and it was gone. You know what I mean?
Oh, so, yeah.
It's definitely the ghetto and hood where that Powerhouse is. So
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So talk to me a little bit then. We'll wrap it up here in a couple more minutes, but I know the bodybuilding scene out there in Michigan is pretty strong, isn't it, Jordan?
Like, for the local shows, I feel like it's been dying. We haven't had as many competitors in the local shows. There's a lot of men's physique and classic physique. But we do have a very good handful of good bodybuilders that compete in Michigan. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was actually listening to, you know who Scott McNally is, right?
Yeah, he messaged me today. He sent me the link to his previous podcast with Dusty Henshaw and Ron Partlow.
Yep.
Yeah, and he said forward to 22 minutes, and they were actually talking about me, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, I knew him since I was a skinny little guy back in 2010. I was working at a grocery store, and he was working for he was a distributor for 7-Up, and he was bigger than me then.
That's it. I was listening to their podcast yesterday, and that's exactly what I was going to bring up, because he said he'd met you. You were just like a skinny little kid doing this thing, and he was working, somewhere in your paths cross. And he's like, I was actually bigger than Jordan at the time. And then they actually pulled up some pictures, some newer pictures, recent pictures of you, and they were really crediting you for just where you've come. So it was kind of cool, because Scott's been on the podcast. Seems like a really good dude. I know he's out there in Michigan as well. So
yeah, and Dusty, I mean, he's one of the hardest working bodybuilders in the industry. So for him to speak highly of me, that was awesome to hear.
For sure, absolutely. So just quickly here, Jordan, at some point when you are an IFBB Pro, is there a couple pro bodybuilders currently that you would love to step on stage with and compete against, or do you not even think about that type of stuff?
The guys I'd like to compete against, like, they're kind of done competing, like Jose Raymond, Flex Lewis, David Henry. Well, I guess David Henry's still competing, but he's not really what he used to be. But like those three guys in the 212, for sure. Derek Lunsford, I'm pretty sure he's going up to the open class. So I just would be awesome to do a pro show and just see how I stack up against other guys in the 212 class.
For sure, man. All right. So kind of the last question here. Has there been kind of like a word, a quote, a mantra, or anything that's kind of been at the forefront of your mind during this prep as you're pursuing your pro card for this go around?
Any type of quote?
Yeah. Is there a quote? Is there a word? Is there anything that you kind of like focus your mindset on during this prep as you've been leading up to nationals?
Just always when I'm training, be my best and try my best to, outwork anybody else that's training.
Perfect, man.
When you feeling depleted and you're low on energy, you just got to think, there's somebody out there busting their ass. So don't be dragging ass, start to train hard, finish the workout, and cardio too. Cardio can get rough too.
How many, what's been your highest day of cardio up to this point?
The most we go up to is 60 minutes. This prep though, we did 60 minutes, either Stairmaster or treadmill. Last prep was way harder because it was 60 minutes on the Stairmaster. So this prep has been definitely a little bit better with just the treadmill or the elliptical.
Yeah, for sure.
My conditioning is even better than last year. I haven't even touched the Stairmaster. Like my glutes they're in better now than last year. So yeah.
Very cool. Do you break that 60 minutes up, or do you usually just knock it out all at one time?
I'll usually do 30 minutes in the morning and then 30 minutes after the workout.
Cool. All right, man. I won't take any more of your time. I know you got a meal here. You got to eat again here in 15 minutes. So, Jordan, I appreciate you coming on. If people want to connect with you on Instagram, why don't you share your Instagram? And if you have any final thoughts or words or sponsors or anything that you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Yeah, my Instagram, if you want to message me, is JJANOWIT. I would just like to thank my family, my amazing wife, my very good friend, photographer, videographer, Jeff Saigo. He's put me out there over the years. We've done a lot of videos together. This prep, we've done 5 videos. They've all turned out really well, and we just had a photo shoot on Monday. So I'm looking forward to seeing those pictures. Jeff Saigo, you're awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. So Jordan,
and my coach, Andrew Vu, of course.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Don't want to forget Andrew. So Jordan, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I know you're 2 days out. I know you're a little out of it, but I do appreciate you taking the time, man, to chop it up with me, touch on this prep and some of your story. And I just want to say good luck this weekend. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Those of you who are tuning in once again to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you very much. It's just always awesome to know that you guys are listening, that you guys are watching, and that you guys are supporting the podcast. Quickly, as we close out here, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit the like button, and then go out down into the comments and just leave a comment, leave some feedback. I love getting your feedback. I love reading the comments in the YouTube comment section. And then finally, I will just ask all of you, take this episode, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Behind the Muscle. Make sure you tag Jordan so that we know that you listened to this episode of the podcast specifically and found great value in it. And then, as always, I will leave you with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.